Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone joining from all over the world. So welcome to our section today of standing out in the current job market. My name is Ton, and I'm very excited to share some practical strategy with you all today. Before we dive in, I just want to cover a couple of quick housekeeping items to ensure that we have a smooth and productive section. So the first one is about language. Okay, I will conduct the whole presentation today in English. This is because most of our audience in this section today will be focusing on the US tech market. And the strategy I'll be sharing with you today about resume, networking, and interview tips going to be depends on very specific and concise English phrasing. So let's just stick with English. It's easier, right? But that being said, after we got to the Q&A section, please feel free to ask your question in both English or Vietnamese. I can understand and can respond to both. Okay. Second, regarding the question, this is a very compact section, packed with a lot of information. So if you have any questions, please put it in the Q&A tool. Okay, and other people can upvote questions. And we have a dedicated 30-minute block at the end of the presentation. And I will go through the Q&A tool and answer as much as possible. After we will pick let's say 5 to 10 questions to most upvoted question to answer. We also have the raise hand, and that's when you can raise your hand and we can go to the live Q&A if you have any specific question you want me to answer. And that's going to be on the Q&A section. Okay, so with that being said, with that out of the way, let me start with a quick bio. For those who don't know me, let me briefly introduce myself. So I'm Tuan Vu. I'm an engineer by training. Spent a few years in college getting my CS degree. And then for the first 7 years of my career, I worked at a software engineer in multiple companies and startup and big tech. And that journey took me from rising from entry-level engineer all the way up to staff engineer. And from there, I transitioned into leadership role, shifting my focus from building ML system and scaling infrastructure into building high-performing teams. And currently, I'm a senior engineering manager at Quora, specifically where I lead all the team responsible for all the Quora AI and ML platform. Beyond my day-to-day job, I'm passionate about giving back to the community. You might have seen me into big tech and referral community. I also work as a career coach, specifically focusing on helping senior engineer and technical leader navigate a unique challenge that they face, which I find very rewarding and interesting. So that's about me. I'm going to set the context for today's discussion, right? So why is this talk important? Because the reality is that the world has changed. Because I was in the Viet Tech and Viet referral community for more than 6 years, I can see how it changed over time. And just based on those community and how I talk to people on the pre-2022, we don't have the issue we're having right now. Okay, it was a very simple path. You can go to Viet referral. Back in the day, before 2022, you see a lot of people bragging. They just submit the resume, they got multiple interviews, and they got offers. It's a very straightforward path. And it's just a context that time. COVID happened, people stay at home. It's a hyper growth for a lot of internet company, right? So it's a high demand for engineering at all levels. There's mass hiring everywhere. And AI at that time was just a white paper. Now, post 2022, the market changed 180 degrees. Okay, rising interest rate, which make borrowing money much more expensive. AI now, after ChatGPT release, become a real threat. And now there's a demand for less engineer doing more work. So layoffs are happening everywhere. And now there's a limited slot slowing growth and intense competition for a few roles. And you can see it happening in the news everywhere, right? Every quarter, tens of thousands of engineers get laid off in every single big tech company. So that's the reality that you have to face. I sympathize with you, but then what we can do about it, right? You have to accept the reality first before we decide what we can do about it. But even in this market, what I want to share with you is possible to get some really good result. And today, this whole talk is about how we get it. Okay. First, I'm just gonna talk about my result. I'm not gonna talk about the people I mentor. Okay. So this is on October of last year, 2024. You can see that on the email. This is after I come back from the Japan trip for 5 weeks. I go to Japan, do some vacation, and I come back, and I hear people complaining. It's like, I submit 600 resume, no response. The market has been very shitty. And I'm like, is it really? I mentor people, they got, pretty good offer. So let me test it out. It's been 2 years, 3 years I haven't really interviewed. Let me go test it out. Pick any company that you think is the hardest, give it to me, and let me just call, apply, and let's see how to go. So I picked OpenAI in this case on a Saturday at 3 p.m. And I haven't, I just come back from vacation, right? My resume have been updated for 3 years. I spent that morning updating my resume. In the afternoon at 3 p.m., I call, apply on OpenAI website. I have people working there. Technically, I can do referral. I decided I just want to test market because I don't need a job. I call, apply on OpenAI website on a Saturday, and recruiter don't work on weekends. On next Tuesday, which is on October 22nd, in the morning, the recruiter reach out and say, I'm very impressed with your resume. Let's have a chat. And we chat the next day. So this is one company, OpenAI. Let's go to the next case. The same day, on October 19, on a Saturday, I call message the SVP at Microsoft. This guy was a distinguished engineer at Google, and now he's the SVP at Microsoft. His boss is Satya Nadella, the CEO of Microsoft. He's the one leading the AI org that have like thousands of people. I call message him on a Saturday at 10 p.m. The guy's still working. On 11 p.m., he reached back and say, seems like your resume is a match. Let's talk. On Monday morning, the recruiter at Microsoft reached out. And in the next couple of months, I go to the interview. I got an offer of a senior principal role. I reject the offer. And then you can see the result here. Within that 1 month, on October to November, I call applying 15 company, a couple of company here reaching out. And I got response within 24 hours. So now, where's the disconnection? A lot of people saying it's very hard. I'm like, I'm driving right now. I call apply. I don't need to use any of my networking. I got called immediately within 24 hours. And you can see the list in this email, right? OpenAI, Anthropic, Netflix, whatever the big tech or the company that people say, like, it's very hard to get in. It seemed pretty easy to me. So what happened? Okay. So I spent time talking. Then I started spend time talking to people that have struggled. I'm like, give me your resume, tell me your story. How did you apply? How did you talk to people? How do you call message them? Right? What is you struggling? And I realized that this connection is about their story. Okay. And I want to leave you with this quote here. The most important story about you is the one being told when you're not in the room. What do I mean? Let me illustrate. Every time you connect with someone, you talk to a recruiter, you call apply someone. And let's say that recruiter, after talking to you, how are you going to be picked for the next step? That recruiter have to go to the hiring manager and tell a story about you. And that story is basically, why should we go ahead with this guy? And that's what I mean. Regardless of you want it or not, you have a choice. Either you control the narrative and you give people a clear story to tell about you, or they will create a story for you. And that's the disconnection. That's why people get bypassed, because you're not giving people the clear signal is why are you the best for this job. Then when you listen they listen to you, they seeing your resume, they seeing your message, they don't see the clear signal about you. And then when it's being chat in the back of the room, you're not being chosen. It's the same when you do a performance review. Let's say you do a very good job. And then in the performance review section, there's a group of managers sitting together, discuss, is this guy, should we promote this guy or not, right? And every guy is a spreadsheet in that discussion. Every manager gonna spend 3 minutes talking about the guy. You think he has time to go through every single thing that you do? Or just tell a story about this guy? It's like, oh, this guy's impressive. This guy do this and that. We should promote him. So there's a story about you being told in the back of the room when you're not in there. And that's the story you should focusing on telling. So let's talk about your resume a little bit. Okay. So then why is the traditional way of 2022 of just submitting a resume and getting called doesn't work anymore? You have to accept the reality, like I said, right? So now for every role out there, there's more than 1,000 applicants. So you one of a 1,000 that compete 1,000 person for that role. And for each resume, a recruiter spend about 8 seconds to scan that resume. So basically your fate is the same after finishing the sentence, it's done. That's how they make decision. And the keyword trap is you can go on a lot of community and with referral, you can see people give a lot of tips on optimizing. Highlight this, optimize keywords. And the more you read through a bunch of resume, everybody the same. So how do you actually stand out? Right? So how do you actually being chosen? To understand how you're being chosen, let's take a step back. And you have to understand supply and demand. For you to be chosen, then there have to be a need, and that's the supply part, right? So either the company is growing, the team is growing in that slot, or somebody in the team leaving, and there's a role need to be backfilled. So there have to be a supply. And for that one role, the demand is 1,000 or 10,000 to fill that one role. So how do you stand out that demand? In order for you to stand out, the two things that they're looking for is, can they trust you? They trust your ability. Can you do the job? Are you reliable? And the second one is, they like you. Are you friendly? Are you easy to work with? And if you can feel those two things, you stand out and you're being picked for this job. That's it. So if you talk about these two, trust your ability and like you, that's the two signal I want to mention to talk here. It's warm and competence. So warm basically answer the question, do we want to work with you? And the signal that people want to look for in you is trust, likability, collaboration. And on a competent signal is, are you the right person for the job? Can you do the job well? And the signal for this is power, reliability, capability. So how do you actually communicating these two signals? And I'm going to give you a tips on this one. Okay, so there's a couple of key tenets, like verbal and non-verbal tips I want to share with you to deliver within your interview to deliver warm and competent signal. I'm doing a lot of hiring, and I see a lot of people making mistake of these two. So I want to give you these tips so that you can perform better in any of the chat recruiter on the interview. Okay, so the first one is on the non-verbal cue, which is the silence signal. First is eye contact. It's pretty simple. Let's say I'm talking to you. I'm talking to you, but I'm looking over here. What does it say? Whatever I'm saying, it's not landing. There's no connection between you and me if you can keep, seeing, looking around like this. So eye contact is the first one you look at. The second one is stance and posture. What's your posture? This is huge in a virtual world. If I'm talking to you, I'm leaning back like this. Does it look like I'm interested? I look bored. I look disengaged, right? The moment I lean in a little, you can feel my intent. Another tip, don't sit like this. Okay? Because if you sit like this, I can barely see your face. And when people see your face and they can't see your hand, they don't trust you. So you have to put your hand here or somewhere so that people can feel your intent. And when people can see when you speak and they can see your hand, you become more trustworthy. Another thing about hand is very important, especially on a virtual Zoom right now. If you know that right now there's a lot of fake candidate, and a lot of fake candidate, there are multiple ways of doing fake. One of them is being deep fake. Okay, and the way they're testing if the candidate is fake, being deep fake or not, is putting a hand in front of their face like this, right, to make sure that they're not a fake candidate. So the one thing immediately when you come in the room, saying hi, just do like hi. That's it. Just one simple action, you lower their guard. That, hey, I'm not a fake candidate. You can trust me, I'm real. Because imagine if the guys, going through the interview, meeting a lot of fake candidates. Imagine the thought of he is coming in within the interview of yours is like, is it kind of fake or not? And with just one simple action, it's like, hello, nice meeting you. You already lower his guard. That, oh, okay, he's not fake. Now I can have a conversation with you. The third one is facial expression. Are you calm and present, or and present, or does your face show that you stressed and you're just thinking about what to say next? And when you tense and nervous, you make me nervous. Okay, and people can see it with your emotion in your face. So try to be calm, and the judgment begin the moment you turn on the Zoom. So make sure that you do meditation or whatever, be calm first before you turn on that Zoom channel. Timing. We've all been there, right? It's like sometimes we wonder, it's like the guy keep talking, like, should I interrupt? Should I say something? And the more you hesitate, the moment pass. So in Zoom, sometimes, there's a raise hand feature. That's what I'm saying, right? So if you want to like raise your hand, use that hand features, or you can lean in and say, sorry, can I interrupt? Can I ask you something? Give them a respectful signal that you want something to add before they come out with some perspective or make a decision about you. So that's on a non-verbal signal. For the verbal signal, the first one is voice. You can hear me, right? Am I speaking too loud or too low? So the first question I always come into the Zoom is, can you hear me? Am I audible? So do that check first. Language. So this is about avoiding weak language. A lot of people I see using the word like this, maybe, short of, I guess. These are all hedges that quicken your statement. And also people use a lot of filler, right? Like, oh well, let's see. So clear executive communication is not about like using big flowery word or jargon, but it should be simple, direct, and clear. So you should work on your communication to make sure it land easily. So when it land, that means you succeed. And the third one is very important. I saw a lot of people make mistake, which is tone. This is critical. Tone is basically the rise and fall of your voice in a sentence. And the most common mistake I see is you end a statement with a rising intonation, which makes it sound like a question. And we call this accidental question inflection. Basically, you end a statement with a high note, make it sound like a question, even though it's not a question. So let me illustrate on this to make it simple. Let's say I do a system design interview, and I question you is like, oh, what is your choice of this database? And then the way you answer, one of the candidate answer is like this. So for this database, I chose PostgreSQL because it's I think it's ACID compliant and has strong support for complex query. What does it sound like? So you can clearly hear that I end on a high note, right? Sounds like a question. So that rising tone completely undermines your authority. And my brain, as an interviewer, immediately stop listening your reasoning and start scrutinizing your choice. So my thoughts when you adding the statement with a high note like that is like, it sounds like this guy doesn't believe in his own design, or he doesn't know what he's talking about. Let me poke hole into his design. So you make your interview a lot harder by just adding the high note. Let me give another example. So let's say I ask you, it's like, oh, can you explain your code? And then you chose to use recursion. I'm just making an example, right? So the way that candidate can answer with a high note is like that. So I use recursion for this problem. You know how recursion work, right? So the base case is when a node is null. And in the recursive down here is, I just call the function on the left and the right children. What does it sound like? I don't know what it sounds for you, but for me, it's like, is this guy asking me, do I know how recursion work? My brain immediately scrutinizing, right? It's like, do you know how recursion work? Now the same script, I'm not changing anything. I use a downward inflection. So that's the same question. I choose recursion, right? So the way I answer as a candidate, I'm going to answer. So I use recursion for this problem. And for this question, for this answer right here, you can see the base case is when the node is null. And in this recursive step, you can clearly see that a function call on the left and the right children. Any question on this? Same script. Does it sound like more certain, more confident? It's not about what I say, it's about how I say it. And how you say it, you say with your tone, gonna make your life much harder in an interview. Okay? The final one is clarity. And clarity is about not adding any jargon in an interview. Let me give an example. I was coaching some engineer in some behavior question. And every time he talked about his decision, he say something like this. He say, I make an informed decision to choose with this approach. And I'm like, why do you have to say the word informed? Does it mean that you never make any informed decision, or you haven't never ever before make any informed decision, and now you make an informed decision? You see that word there? Informed decision. Why can you just say, I make a decision? It's my job as an interviewer to decide your decision is informed or not. It's not your job to tell me you make an informed decision. So it's all about the clarity of your statement. And this clarity is what's going to be put in your resume and the way you send a message. I'm going to give an example later when we go into the practical section. So this is a couple of non-verbal and verbal tips, or like a cue. I wanted to give tips to you so that you perform better in the interview and to build your basically delivering your warm signal to give people trust you more. Okay. Now, let's take us. I want to give you this graph about communication style, about balancing warm and competent signal. So if you look into the lower bottom left here, so the danger zone is basically if you are cold, you're not responsive, you're quiet, I cannot, understand what you say. You're clearly incompetent. You don't know what you're doing. You're being rejected. That's, and there's nothing to talk about. Now, the problem with being warm here, and how are we in an interview, let's say an interview of 45 minutes or an hour, how do you structure the warm and the competent signal? And how do you balance the two? So let's talk about the first one first, the warm signal. This is what you added in the first 5 minutes of the interview. The moment, so the moment the people come into the interview is when the judgment happened. They're gonna, and their job, let's say my job as a hiring manager, is to judge you. That's what I got paid for. So you cannot say that, why do you judge me so hard? I got paid to do it, right? I'm going to comment you with all the judgmental and the bias built up. And it's your job in the first 5 minutes to lower this guard. I'm going to give you a story on this. So about 10 years ago, that's when I was working in Irvine in Orange County. And I came in for an in-person interview. And the hiring manager walked into the room. And I can see clearly in his face, he's very cold. I think he's a little bit angry. I don't know where his drama coming from, but it's built up. Maybe he has a tense argument with someone else earlier. But he walking in, he's impatient. He draw his, his stack of paperwork on the table like this. It's like try to give me a signal that he's like impatient to do this. What should I do? Right? So I just take a step back, take a breath, and ask him, "Oh, how are you doing?" And the guy's being cold, right? He's like, "I'm good." But for the sake of courtesy, he had to ask back, "How are you doing?" And the way I respond is very simple because I try to connect with him on a very basic thing. So if you never live in Irvine, the way you go to Irvine is everybody have to go to the freeway 405, and every day it's traffic. People are stuck there for 2 hours. So when he asked me how you doing, it's like pretty good. This morning, there's no traffic on 405, so I just get here in 10 minutes. I feel pretty good, and I could clearly drive and listen to music. And the guy's like, and you could clearly see his face change, right? He basically like, really? There's no traffic on 405? Damn it! I was stuck in there, for every day for 2 hours. I should, have leave early today, to drive to somewhere to do hiking. And immediately his face changed. So you can connect with people on a very basic stuff like that. So the question I like to ask people in an interview in the first 5 minutes is like, instead of asking very, boring question like what's your name and stuff like that, I can ask them like, oh, if the weekend about to happen, it's like, oh, and an interesting thing you plan to do this weekend, right? So it's your job in the first couple of minutes to show them an aha moment or a me too moment to show that you and him connect on a human level to lower his guard, because every engineer is not trained to be high EQ. A lot of engineers built to have a high IQ, right? And it's create a problem is that they can be very cold and very biased and very judgmental in the first couple of minute interview. And it's your job to lower that guard. So you have to give that warm signal that you're collaborative and you want to connect with him. Then after that, you can connect with him on the next level. So that's about a warm signal. The problem of the warm signal is that if you try to connect with a person too much, you try to chat with him, with the interviewer. You try to smile. Let's say in an interview you're smiling a lot. You're chatting a lot. You're giving the signal of you being too warm. And the dangerous of the 1 hour interview, if you're giving a too warm signal, people are gonna view you as incompetence. So as an hiring manager, if you're too warm, my immediate thought for you is this person lacked depth. He's a people pleaser. And there's a risk of hiring you if you're incompetent, right? I'm gonna give you an example on this. So a couple of weeks ago, I was coaching a lady, very nice lady. I think she matching the warm signal. She was interviewing for a principal role at AWS. And she come back to me and tell me that the result of that interview. It's like, I think I did pretty good. That was the first chat with the hiring manager. The chat is about 45 minutes. I chat with him for an hour. And every question he asking me, I answered pretty well. So I think I did pretty good. And then the problem is that a couple of days later after that, I reconnect with the recruiter for that role again. And she told me that they're still making a decision. They're still deciding. And I'm like, this is the first chat with the hiring manager, right? If they like you, what is it to decide? This is the principal role. If I'm a hiring manager for this role, that role is on my mind 24/7. If I see anyone competent enough, that person will move into the next round immediately. So what is it that after a couple of days, I'm still deciding? There's clearly something wrong here. Fast forward, a week later, she come back and tell me that the team doesn't want to move forward. Luckily, because she's very warm, the recruiters really like her. So the recruiter find another team so that she can interview. And then after that interview, she got to on-site, but then they down level her to senior level. And she come back to me, I don't understand why. I thought I do very well on every single interview, even on technical round, I seem like to answer every question. I'm like, okay, let's do a mock interview. So I did a mock interview with her, answer a question. And the feeling I got from that interview is she's very nice. She answered a question at is, but I don't feel any challenge. No challenge at all. And that's the risk I want to talk about, right? When you are just answer the question being asked, you try to show a lot of warm signal, you risk of being incompetent. And I tell her the story when I did an interview, and I'm gonna share with share with all of you that interview on how to show the competence signal. So that was an interview I did with a Lyft, I think about 7 years ago, for I think ML team, machine learning team. So in that interview, the hiring manager was talking about his system, and I think it was built in Python server. And he was like, just mentioning about like how they were using Python, and keep mentioning about like, oh, they want to improve the concurrency and threading. And I'm like, in that interview, I'm like, can I ask you a question? And the manager immediately stopped talking. It's like, yeah, sure, ask me any question. So I raised the question up. I say, I saw that you mentioned, threading and concurrency a lot. I'm interested to know, is your system CPU bound or IO bound? And the manager stopped to think a little bit, like a minute. And he's like, what do you mean? I'm like, can I share my screen? So I share my screen. I draw out his system. Basically, if you work on ML, a lot of machine learning, you know, like let's say you send in a text and the process gonna do tokenization. Tokenization basically splitting the text into different tokens so that the machine can process and try to predict. I'm just, simplified it. But basically, this is a Python server, and they try to do some split string and tokenizing, and they try to scale up the server. Okay, the problem, if you work in machine learning and language, you know that Python has a problem with concurrency because Python is bottlenecked by the global interpreter block clock. So it cannot go handle well with a lot of concurrency. It cannot do like concurrency like any other language. So if you want to scale the system, so that's why I'm asking him. I redraw the system and I'm showing him what is, how does the global interpreter block in Python works. And then I'm asking him back, it's like, oh, so is your system, you mentioned this and this, is the system CPU bound or IO bound? And that went one question leading to the next 25 minutes of the interview just discussing about how to solve this problem. Brainstorming on how to solve this problem together. He forgot all his script of scrutinizing me or like antagonizing me about my knowledge. And after that interview, 30 minutes later, the recruiter called me. Let's say this manager name is like Tom, right? The recruiter called me and said, Tom, I don't know what you tell Tom, but he's very excited about you. He decided to skip your the next round of coding and system design. You go straight to on-site. When are you available? And that's the story I want to share with you. And the insight I want you to take away from this is that in an interview, the first 5 minutes, your job is to deliver the warm signal to lower the guard. But the rest of the interview, you need to clearly show your competent signal, amaze them with your depth of knowledge. And that's how you stand out. If you go back to the story of the principal engineer at AWS, if you read the 14 leadership principle of AWS, of Amazon, right? One of them is have a backbone. This is a principal role. You are there to lead people. You have to show you have a backbone. If you're not showing a backbone, people think of you as incompetent and you don't have, what it takes to lead this role, and you're not being chosen. So that's why I'm sharing you, a couple of stories that you need to balance between warm and competent signal in an interview. So for this section, we talk about, warm and competent signal, right? But to go deeper into competent signal, I picked, these three people. This is Steve Jobs, Michael Jordan, Warren Buffett, right? So can pick one person, and can you put in a chat like one word that come to mind to discuss it person? You can put Steve Jobs, and then the one word that's discussed, this person. Okay. So Mạnh said like Steve Jobs, charisma, right? And Wang said influence, but who? Who influence? Right? Who else? Who want to put more work in to describe? It's a good exercise to learn. Good. Michael Jordan, relentless. Steve Jobs, influence. Buffett, charisma. Grit. Consistency. Consistency is a great word, right? So basically, every one of us, these people are very high competence, right? And depends on how you listen to their story, how you interact with them, you're gonna have a word to describe them. And each of us gonna have a word to describe each of these person, right? So for me, Steve Jobs is visionary, right? Clearly in his way, building Apple product and changing the whole company from nearly bankrupt to trillion-dollar company right now. Michael Jordan is relentless, and you can hear it in the way he talks, right? One of his quote is, "I can't accept failure. Everyone fail at something, but I can't accept not trying." Right? He always talk about like competing with himself. So relentless, it would work to describe Michael Jordan. And Warren Buffett is wisdom, right? Or you can use consistency to describe, Buffett as well, right? So if you listen to Buffett, is that he talk every year. He has a letter to shareholder, and in that letter, he used very simple language, right? He not make use flowery word. He just basically use very simple language to describe his thought process and how he choose to investing, and he stick with his process. Very simple. You can use the word simplicity to describe him as well. His thought process, his strategy is simple and easy to follow. And he keep delivering every year after year. And the word to describe him is wisdom. And that's what I'm talking about, right? The story about these people. We're sitting in this room without any of them in this room, and we talk a story about them. So how we come up with these words to describe these people, right? And that's the role of perception. So every one of us here have a self-perception, a self-narrative to describe ourselves. And the majority of us, usually a lot of these narratives fall into three main narratives. Either you are a hero, and a hero here is basically you have some challenge and you overcome that challenge. And that's the hero narrative. Or the narrative can be a healer narrative. And the healer narrative, basically, I'm helping people, right? I'm going there and releasing them of their pain. I'm helping the people. And the last narrative is the victim narrative. Basically, I'm a victim of these circumstances. I cannot do anything about it. Right? So each one of us have a perception about ourselves, and that's a story our brain we tell about ourselves. Like we can say we have one word to describe ourselves as well. It's like maybe you're thinking yourself of innovative, you think of yourself collaborative, of resilient, of passionate. But what about like other people perception? Do they really see you as innovative? You think of yourself innovative, but what about the other people? And that's the feedback coming in, right? It's like maybe they can think of you of like very client focused, you're too detail oriented, you indecisive or you decisive. So your job is to find out, to first of all figure out what's your narrative, and then figure out the other person narrative, figure out the gaps here, so that you can structure your story better, clearly delivering your warm and your competent signal in this gap. And how do you clearly, telling, communicating your competent signal? I'm gonna skip this slide. So basically, each of us have a self narrative, and there's an other person narrative, and you have to be clear about like what's your narrative, because you cannot be everything for everybody. Because if you are everything for everybody, you are nobody. So you need to be clear on who you are and figure out your identity. So how to deliver your competent signal? The one way you can deliver it is using a method called True North. And True North is basically what you stand for, your promise, and who is served. So let's go to Steve Jobs. What is his promise? His promise is, I want design to influence every part of my product. Okay, I want to build a product so beautiful, people don't have to worry about privacy, and they love to use my product. And that's Steve Jobs' mission statement. Right? You can go to every single line of product of Apple, iPhone, iPod, iMac, right? iPad, and you tell me that mission statement doesn't work, right? So he used that true north as a way to say, this is my promise and who is served. So what's your true north? And how do you actually communicate your true north? I can give a couple of examples here, right? So the way you communicate your true north is you have a couple of phrases here. I help audience achieve some outcome by approach. You can pick any verb in this slide. I create, enable, deal, turn, make. Like I turn audience, or I make this audience achieve some outcome by this approach. That's it. Let's go to a couple of examples, right? How do you delivering your true north to clearly show that your competence, right? So let's say in the introduction, I ask you, tell me about yourself. How do you answer it? Right? One way you can answer it is, I just graduated with a degree in data analytics, and I'm looking for an entry-level role. What does it sound like? Does it sound like this person is unclear in his or her identity? Is he or she still looking for something to do? It can be anything, right? I have a degree, but I'm just looking for a role, any role. I don't care. How can we phrase it? Using true north, right? So one way I can phrase it is pretty simple. I just change it to this. I help business leader make smarter decision by transforming messy data into clear and actionable insight. What does it sound like? Does it sound like, oh, see, this is the identity of a data analyst. This person, interesting about like data insight, recommendation, want to make a smarter decision. Seems like she know what she's doing. I just by one line, you're already living your true north, your competence signal. So I chose a couple of examples here. Like let's say I manage brand and campaigns at Lululemon, and you can change it to I create market defining narrative that turn our product into a central part of our customer identity. So a lot of example here is more on new grad role, because I know that the audience here, a lot of you is early in their career, and it's easier to pick the example. But I have an example here as well. I'm a principal PM at US. Is your role and your title make you important? Let's say I'm asked like, tell me about yourself. I'm a principal PM at the US. So what? Now, if I change it to, I empower millions of developers to build and scale application faster by removing the need for them to ever think about a server. Isn't that basically what AWS does? But you say it like this is your mission statement. This is what I do, and I'm proud with it. I'm basically just rephrasing what you do for you. Now, so we talk about true north. So true north is basically just a promise, right? So it is a promise for solving problem for people, okay? But promise mean nothing if it doesn't have proof. So where's the proof? Do you have any result to back it up? Any measurable outcome you deliver? So you have to make it measurable. If it's money, put the dollar amount. If it's, you save some latency, what's the percentage, right? You need to name the proof. Is it a dashboard? Is it the system that you deliver? You need to time box it. Is this system you build in 6 months, a year, 2 years? This strategy, how long you work on this strategy? And you have to tie to some strategy of the company, right? So I'm going to give you a couple of examples here. Right? Let's say you have early career software engineer. How do you deliver the result? Let's say you deliver your result, right? One result here is check out page latency, reduce P90 from 800 millisecond to 250 millisecond. What's the proof? Oh yeah, I have the proof here. I check my FAANG monitoring. I have a performance test to prove it. And what's the stakeholder? It's my tech lead it's my product manager. Or I resolve a critical authentication bugs, and that leads to 0 P1 incident in Q3. These are all the results you can put into your resume, or in your interview, how people asking about like, what did you do? This is basically how you phrase it or say it, right? I can go to an example of like a high level. Let's say you are a director of engineering. What did you do? I reduced cloud spend by 2%. I reduced cloud spend, and that increase our operating margin by 2%, and that leads to $8 million annual saving. What's the proof? There's a cloud cost dashboard. There's a CFO report, and the stakeholder is our CFO, CDO, CEO, and board director. Or I scale engineering org, grew from 40 to 95 engineers in 18 months ahead of plan, and then the proof is headcount report, attrition data, less than 5% regrettable, or the offer acceptance rate is 85%. So all this proof, you can see that, right? The higher level you go, the scope get increased. So you have to be clearly say the proof, right? And it tied to timeline, and it tied to strategy of a company. Like the strategy is reducing the cost of a company, improving margin. Or this strategy here is about like growing engineer of a company, right? So all of this signal, all this strategy or tips I want to give you mean nothing if we don't get practical. So I want to spend some time going to practical. Okay, so the first thing we look at is your LinkedIn. I'm not gonna pick your LinkedIn, but I'm gonna pick a couple interesting people so that we can all look at how other leader do their LinkedIn. So we can pick Satya, another here, the chairman and CEO of Microsoft, right? So the first thing, if you want more reach out, you need to work on your LinkedIn, right? You need to have some social network page so that people know where to look for you if they want to reach out to you. So your LinkedIn is something people not spend a lot of time on. So I want to spend some time talking about it, right? So the first one is your profile picture, right? What signal you want to give here? Right? If you look into Satya Nadella, he looked competent, right? But he upset at the signal here is like very warm, right? He's smiling here, and this is a genuine smile, right? Because he smiled all the way up into his eyes. So if you're smiling with your eyes, that's an authentic smile. It's not a fake smile like this, right? So he's a very powerful CEO, and he upset it by his warm signal. He want clearly to send a message here in his profile picture. The second one is your title here. For him, it's not important anymore, but for a lot of you, is if you have any brand, let's say you go to a good school, Stanford, UC Berkeley, put it here so that people know. And that's the first thing people look at. Do you have any credibility? If you have any credit, you come from a good school, you work for a good company. That's why you see a lot of people put like X Microsoft, X Amazon, right? Why do they put it there? Basically, that's their brand name, right? So if you have a good brand, put it there. It helps you get more reach out. That's it. Now, the most important thing I want you to look at is this about statement. Look at this. As chairman and CEO of Microsoft, I define my mission and that of my company as empowering every person in every organization on the planet to achieve more. What is this? True or not? If you read that statement, you clearly see he's delivering his competence signal, right? So he's massively do it. He delivering both one here and competence signal. And are you questioning, his achievement? He grow Microsoft when he took over 2012, $2 trillion company right now, right? He clearly lived with a mission statement. Another one, Jensen. Look at his pose, not smiling. He's pretty cool if you meet him in person, but in this pose, he want to clearly, send a competent signal with his pose, right? his hand like this. This is a competence signal. And then if you look at his about statement, he tells a story about himself, right? I founded NVIDIA to solve a problem of 3D graphic of the PC. So our pioneering work in accelerated computing led to the redefinition of modern computer graphic creation of modern AI. Now we are fundamentally changing how computing works and what computer can do. The next industrial revolution begin. He tells a story about himself. And interestingly enough, the next statement he talked about NVIDIA. We have 30,000 people. We are strong and growing. We. One, if you listen to a lot of his interview, the story he keep bringing up is he say that he believes in the people. He don't want to fire anyone, and he want to keep investing in people. And he believe that as long as you don't quit on people, everybody will reach their full potential and keep delivering. So while other companies keep laying off, NVIDIA didn't do that, right? And he clearly he's like telling his story right now and what he believed. This is true or not. He believed in NVIDIA as a company, and as long as we keep investing in people, we keep growing strong. Right? So what is your mission statement, true or not? You need to clearly define it. Okay, so that's on your LinkedIn. The next one I want to talk about on your resume. And we're gonna wait until the Q&A if you have any question about it. So for resume, I want to give you this. So if you look at the resume, there's a study on this, and the way a lot of people, recruiter and hiring manager, read an resume is based on this F-shaped pattern, basically the F word. So the way they read is first they're gonna spend a couple of seconds, read the first 2 or 3 lines in the top of your resume. Then they're gonna scan downward like this on the left side. Then they're gonna pick the first experience of your on your resume, and they're gonna read only the first line. And that's how they spend the 8 seconds. So if you look at this pattern, a couple of tips we can do is we need to have a clear and simple layout, right? And the way they read on the left-hand side, downward on this one, they basically just want to scan for the company or your top job title. Do you have a good title? Which company you're working from? Basically scanning for credibility and brand name, right? So if you have the job title, you need to, or company, you need to put on the left side. And bullet list of accomplishment, I already talked about it. But the most important thing is this part. A lot of people were missing, right? If people spend the first couple of seconds on the reading on the top of your resume, then you need to have a summary or a mission statement at the top. So there's a couple of resume before this section. I think we reached out to a couple of people and asking them if they want to okay sharing their resume. So thanks for that. There's like 10 people sharing their resume, but I'm just gonna pick 2 just to give you an example how I'm gonna read this resume. And this is not a resume, section, right? Resume optimization section. We're not gonna spend hours trying to fix this resume, but I'm gonna show you in 10 seconds using the F-shape pattern. How do I criticize this resume? So first of all, thanks Andrew for sending the resume. Okay, so let's use the same pattern I just showed you. So F-shape. First, I'm gonna read this. So college, I mean, it's a college. It's not Stanford or UC Berkeley. I do research on that. It's ranked 155, but to be honest, I never heard of this college before. I'm not trying to insult you. I'm just stating a fact. Okay, so if I read this, okay, my perception is like, okay, it's a college. You go to college, that's it, right? Then I'm gonna scan downward. I'm gonna read down here. So you have a couple of experience, software engineering intern. Nothing stand out. Now, interestingly, if I read on the left side, I read from left to right, Robinhood. It's a good company, but you miss your opportunity. right? You can think of F word, the F-shaped pattern, basically very expensive real estate. So why don't you put Robinhood here? So when people scan down, say Robinhood, oh, okay, good company. At least you intern there. You missed your chance, missed your opportunity. Now the third line is I'm gonna only read the first line of the first experience. And to be honest, if you read this with me together, okay, reduce troubleshooting time by 60% by launching internal tool with Go, PostgreSQL, React to centralize 255 million plus user device data. I don't understand what she's doing. Read again. Reduce troubleshooting time by launching internal tool. If I stop right here, that's good enough. So I spend like 5 times trying to read this one statement to try to understand what is it that she does. And basically it's very simple, right? You build some internal tool that centralize some user device data that help reduce the troubleshooting time by 60%. So the statement is there, but it's just the flow of the statement might get very hard to follow. Like I have to restructure the statement to understand what you're talking. And that's what I'm talking about, concise and succinct communication. It's just the way you phrase this one, it's very hard to follow. Like for example, if I cut the second part here and just saying reduce engineering troubleshooting time by 60% by launching an internal tool, done. It's an impact. But then because you add, I have to read the next part with a bunch of jargon with Go and PostgreSQL and React to centralize 255 million user device data. Now this part here, completely mess up the first part. Now if I read the whole sentence, it's like my thoughts get messy. I can't understand what you're doing, right? So when the way you communicate, if I read it the first time and I can't understand what you're doing a very bad job in communication, what you're doing. Sorry for being criticized, but as an engineering manager, I spend 50% of my time on hiring. And we've been trained on hiring the best out of 1,000. So my bar of reading resume is pretty high. And I'm sorry if I'm being critical, but that's what I'm being trained by. And I want you to do better. So sorry for my language if I'm being very critical to your resume. Now go to the second resume. And this is, I'm telling you, this is the two best resume out of all the resume I receive. Okay. Same F-shape pattern, 10 seconds. University of Alberta. Okay, it's a school. I heard this school is good. Now I'm gonna scan downward. Now this, FAANG doing a pretty good job. If you could read downward on the F-shape pattern, right? Amazon, Shopify, FBT, okay. US probably you don't hear about it, but Vietnam, everybody know what FBT is. But yeah, just read like this, you have stand out. Amazon and Shopify. Now I'm gonna read the third line. I'm gonna read from left to right with only this. Pioneer the first ever loop pipeline pattern in Amazon using AWS CDK to provision infrastructure for release pipeline shipping database engine to 50 plus AWS RDS data center, accelerating deployment and improving observability. Do you understand what he's doing? I read this 10 times, I have no idea what he's doing. Basically, I have to again, cut this part. What is Amazon CDK? Like if you work at AWS, probably but this is the technology not a lot of people outside AWS use. Right? I heard of S3, I heard of RDS, but the problem is if you put a lot of keyword in there, you risk of you risk having a lot of jargon in your statement. I read this 10 times, I have no idea what you're doing. Go back to the example here. The result. Who's your client? You deliver some pipeline, accelerate deployment, improving usability. Who's your client? Who do you help? The outside client of the US or the inside client of the US? Internal or external client? By how many percent? What is the proof? What's the metric, right? And then you're doing a lot of like jargon, strong word. First ever loop pipeline pattern, pioneering. First ever loop. What does it even mean? Right. So I'm not going to go deeper into how to restructure your resume, but I'm telling you these are like the top 2 resume I'm reading so far. So this resume, I'm telling you because if FAANG is looking for an intern, you will get called. And you don't got called because of your experience, because I'm reading it, I don't understand what you're doing. The main point of you getting called is because you got intern from Amazon and Shopify, and that's it. But if this resume, let's say if you graduate right now and this resume go into a new grad role, your callback rate is going to be super low. I would say it's less than 5%. Because a lot of people of Amazon getting fired and laid off right now. You get 10,000 people laid off every year. So if everyone having an Amazon and web service on the resume, what are your chances? Okay, so just a couple of resume there so that people know what I'm looking for. So resume, I'm giving you the example. Now I'm giving you a good resume example, right? Summary and highlight section. Let's say you don't have a true north statement, you don't have your identity. Good, put your result, like achieve 30% reduction in response time, right? If you read, showing some result, some key business metric on the top there where people scan, right? If you don't come for a good score, you're not working for a good company, then putting your result on top. And then if you look down here, right, highlighting role and company, crypto, 200 million Series A startup, right? If the company, not they don't know what is it about, the guy clearly put like, oh, $200 million Series A startup specializing in top blockchain, so that people know about the company. Google, Meta, Stanford. And then if you look at his result, do you see he put any jargon, any technology? Does he highlight any technology like AWS, Lambda, SQL, and SNS? No. Develop a blockchain, doing something to get a result, securing $20 million in Series B funding. If you develop some money, put the money amount. Okay, look at this line. Increase Android test coverage by 80%. And then maybe because of, if you don't work in a mobile, you don't know, he put a second line. Significantly reduce user bug report by 50%. This is a good resume look like, right? Summary and highlight section, bold title, bold left align role, clearly quantify the impact, and cut a fluff. He didn't say like, amazingly achieve 30% reduction. He just said achieve. And it's my job to judge, or ask more questions. Is it really impressive or not? So this is what a good resume look like. Just want to show you that example for you on how you structure a good resume. Now, email. So the tips of email is that you want to go back to the executive communication. You want to be clear and succinct and concise. Okay. So the tips I want to share with you, don't make people guess what you want to say or want from them. Okay. So let's look at this email subject line. Touching base, everything we discuss. What do they want from me? Maybe I connect with this guy before and now he sent me this to be touch again, but I don't know what they want from me. I don't remember you. Who are you? Do I need to respond? Should I open it now later? I have another 1,000 email more important than it to look at. Okay, so your subject line also need to be clear as well. What do you want? Be clear. Now, email body or chat body. This is how people reach out to me. I told you I do a lot of hiring. Let's see this. Okay. The first chat. Chào bạn. And then there's a resume. Resume của mình có phù hợp vị trí nào bên công ty bạn không? Đó thì thớ dịu giúp nhé. Okay. What do you expect me to respond to this? Why don't you tell me specific role? You make my job harder. You want me to help you. Tell me clearly why you think you're a good fit for this company and which role. Give me the role. give me the story so that I can go talk to the hiring manager of that role, why I think you are a good fit. You're not making my job harder. What do you expect me to do? Do you expect me to reach out to you asking you like, oh, what are you good at? What role do you want? And then I have to ask you all that question, chat to you, build up your story, and go do all the job for you, right? Clearly, I can't do that. I cannot take my time, out to do all of that for you. You make my job harder, right? The second example, this is clearly a new grad, right? Em chào anh Tuấn, em là sinh viên năm ba. Em thấy anh đang làm ở Quora, em chuẩn bị apply vào Cycle và cực kỳ thích môi trường Quora. You say you like Quora and you think that you and Quora is a fit. What? What's the detail? Be more specific. And then, this person here, Emma's, I came across senior full stack engineer. I have 10 years of experience developing user-centric application using React, TypeScript, Python, GraphQL. Skill listed are super generic. I'm not impressed. What result did you get? Give me some result so I can brag about you for you. I can tell the story of you for you. You're not giving me any signal that you are a good fit for this role, and I can, send your resume along the way. So I want to give an example. What is the best cold, email look like? This is not, sending to me, but this is like from an intern sending to the PM at Roblox. And you read this email, it's like this. Hello, Peter. I hope you're doing well. I am, Araf. I'm highly interested in this new grad PM role at Roblox. A bit about me. I studied computer science and economics. I intern at TikTok, Coinbase, and the US. I work on high impact features on ideation and launch and learn to lead a cross-functional team. I build and scale health startup from 0 to 10K. I would love to connect and learn a more experienced product. Clearly this email sent out, right? He tell what role he interested in. Maybe he passed a link in this email and he talked about himself, his credibility. He interned at TikTok, Coinbase, AWS, all good company. He worked on high impact feature from idea to launch and lead cross-functional team. And he built from 0 to 10K for product. So if you look at this, pretty good fit for PM role, right? But we can even make it better, right? Let's say you don't have any credibility. You don't come from a good school. You're not working for a good company. So you can mention like some project you're working on and how you think it's a good fit for the role. Or you can talk about in this case, Roblox user experience, right? I started off a casual player. I got hooked. I love how personalized. You can praise the product a little bit. Personalize the building experience of Roblox. But one features I would really appreciate is real-time analytics in Studio. So he gave a suggestion. He used the product and he gave a suggestion to the PM about this product. And this is basically better than this. Okay, you say you like Quora. What do you like about it? Do you use my product? Can you at least try using my product and tell me how your experience? Any recommendation? Everybody love to hear recommendation about a product, and that's a pretty good example to stand out as a new grad in your resume if you don't have any brand name or experience you want to share. Okay, so that's a couple of lessons I want to show. Is in a cold email, you need to think about the other person. Like, why should I care? You need to create a hook. Who are you? You need to establish your credibility. How can you help me? You need to offer some value. And how can I help you? Yeah, you need to make a very low effort ask. Like, can you pass my resume along? If it's my team, I would love to have a chance to chat with you if you think I'm a good fit. Make a very low effort ask for me to do the work for you. Okay, so those are all the practical tips. I hope it's helpful. Before we go to Q&A, one thing I want to leave you with is a mindset. And without all this tip, not gonna be helpful if you don't have the right mindset. And the mindset I want you to leave you with is you should think about this. You need to change your mindset. Is that this top market isn't a barrier. It's an opportunity. And what do I mean by this? I do a lot of hiring. And let me tell you, how can you be in top 10, top 5%? So when I put a role in my website for hiring, that 10,000 resumes submitted. And clearly we cannot read all 10,000 resumes. So I put in one question, just one question. Please briefly describe 2 or 3 infrastructure or distributed system project you work on, because I lead an ML infrastructure team. So I just want to hear, is there any project, even a school project, distributed system project you work on? 95% of the people put this. No, they don't bother to follow instruction, answer this question. What does that tell us? It basically tells me that the market in the past 3 years is so shitty that it's discouraged people to do the bare minimum. I can see it clearly because I do hiring. I saw a lot of you struggle hiring, submit resume, and talking about like, oh, I submit 600 resume, no callback. I submit 1,000 resume, no callback. And I'm like, how can I give you a callback if you can't even bother to follow the simple instruction? Basically, people are so discouraged that they do the bare minimum job and just sitting there and hoping for the best result. But hope is not a good strategy. So you need to change your mindset and really, put side to side your resume and this, this application, this role we're looking for, and try to see, is there a match? How can I change it? How can I fit it to show that I'm the best candidate for this? And then in the application, is there an instruction in there I should follow? Right? A lot of 95% of people not even bother to follow the basic instruction. And this is your chance. This is an opportunity. A lot of people discourage. So can you encourage yourself? I'm going to give very clear example on this. On 2023, market is shitty. And a lot of people reaching out. I put that on with referral. I say the tips on for new grad to stand out job application. You can skip this part, but basically what I'm saying down here is if you're reaching out or posting in community, keep your message concise. And don't forget your attach your resume to make it easy. Below is template you can use. Hi everyone, I am XX. I'm actively seeking a position in XYZ domain. I have hands-on experience in skill 1, 2, or 3. Here's a couple of links that I believe, role that I believe align with my skill. Please find my resume here. And I appreciate your time and look forward to learning more about the job if there's a match. I clearly tell people how to reach out to me. And in the past, in 2023 until now, I do a lot of hiring. I put on referral, I put on big tech. Reach out to me. I tell you the template to reach out to me. 0 people do it. And then you expect me to like, what should I do? I tell you what to do. You don't do it. So you cannot blame me. It's like, why I'm not helping you? Why am I cold? Okay. So the second mindset I want to leave you with is that the iron rule of life is that everybody struggle, regardless of who you are. Everybody struggle. So in this shitty market, if you're struggling, what are you gonna do about it? You can cry. Yeah, you can cry, all right, but you cannot quit. You have to wake up every day and think this is a fight, and I keep fighting until I get my result. I have to keep measuring my progress instead of submitting 600 resume. Let's try my best, do my best, submit one, and do my best on that one resume. Submit 10 resume and then see what's the result. You should think about it, it's like a funnel, right? It's like you submit 600 resume and you get 0 call back compared to a person, let's say submit 10 resume and go 1 call back. Who's doing better? So you have to measure that funnel along every way along the way to see how you progress, right? You cannot get discouraged because everyone struggle. And if you don't have the top mindset for this market, you're not gonna last compared to the others. Okay, we're gonna jump into Q&A, but I love to hear your feedback. You can book a 50-minute. So this is usually I don't do this, but for the next 2 weeks, I open some slot. Book a 15-minute chat, you can go to the link. There should be a free link to book like 15-20-minute chat with me. I think 15-minute chat, intro chat. I love to hear about your feedback. I love to hear, especially if you apply any of the tips I tell you to do today, and share with me about your result. Or you can come to me and tell me your hardest problem in this market right now. I would love to hear about all of your problem and collecting them. Okay. If you want to follow, connect me on LinkedIn. Here's the link. But if I don't reply or accept random requests, so if you send me a connection request, put like you put a few words is, oh, you come from this event, who are you, and you would love to connect, then I will accept your invite.